Miles Lord here with another Mad Rants. I want to today talk about something very important: freedom of speech. Freedom of speech gives us, especially here in the West, the ability to do things like this, express ourselves. Simply put, freedom of speech is the ability to speak one's inner thoughts and feelings unabridged and uncensored. And this is not to take into consideration anything else. I think a lot of people today are willing to give up, or rather to constrain something that's so powerful just because of what it does to feelings, how it makes, how it puts people down, how it can express something. Yes, freedom of speech is very powerful, and freedom of speech does resonate, does vibrate, does create changes. But I dare say, if we inhibit this ability or this right, this inalienable human right, that we are shorting ourselves an experience that we can no longer go through. I tend to take the Voltaire approach on things. There was a researcher by the name of Beatrice Hall who, through her research and translations of Voltaire's readings, she came up with a quote that is as such: "I may not agree with a word you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it." I truly agree with this, in that it's not about what is said, or rather how people take what you say. It's the ability to express one's inner thoughts and feelings. Now, that's not to say that speech, or the freedom of speech, is not freedom from the consequences of that speech. Instead, it's the opposite. We can now gauge people and societies and groups based on the thoughts that come forth. People are not without, fault, and we can then see these inner thoughts and inner feelings. We can then experience them in real time. Also, without freedom of speech, how can one experience a catharsis, or a letting go or a release? A good example of this is I tend to listen to metal music, and metal isn't a music really for everyone. It tends to be quite violent in nature, and the very sounds of the guitars and the drums and instrumentation together is like a well-oiled machine that's trudging through a countryside, grinding meat, or drilling deep into the earth and cracking things, explosions, right? It's this real visceral feeling, and I feel like some people, including myself, need this sort of outlet in order to not enact such violences in real life. I find it a really great therapy for myself. I dare say that all freedom of speech is in such a way that if we remove certain words and certain phrases from our society, we not only now can we not identify these people with these thoughts, but at the same token, now these people that do have these nefarious thoughts, if you will, don't have an outlet for them, and they become deep-seated, and they start to fester into something that's more real and more dangerous than the words themselves. This is not to say that I want to go and hurt people's feelings, or that I want to go around and put people down. That's not the case at all. But I think that allowing freedom of speech, whether you call it hate speech, whether you call it bullying or whatever, I think that this is something that humans need to go through and experience. We can't always be happy. Sometimes we have to experience sadness. Sometimes we have to be angry. Sometimes we have to be frustrated. And truly, sometimes we have to be able to disagree. And if everyone agrees on something, there's no progress that's made. And further, there's no challenge. There's no, there's no pushing of anybody. There's no motivation. I'm not advocating, putting people down in such a way to, make them a stronger person, because I don't think everyone's capable of that. But I do think that everyone is capable of finding that place where they find their true self. Whether that be the motivation to make oneself better, or finding the revenge through success, or just finding comfort within friends and family, I don't think everyone on this planet will ever get along. And I also don't think that everyone on this planet will ever totally agree. So why would we go to the extent of taking someone's idea of what's right and what's just and what's offensive adapting that, and forcing everyone else to have the same idea. What this does is takes away the creative response that humans have to alternate ideas. We'll no longer have conversations and debates, and instead it will be enforced by brute force, by law. And this to me is a scary thing. Here in the West, we're so willing to give up our freedoms in the idea that we would protect our own feelings or the feelings of others. I challenge us to, instead of thinking about what triggers us, so to speak, to have these feelings come up, but instead why these feelings come up, how to deal with them internally, and come up with some sort of coping mechanism, some sort of meditation to actually release these feelings. By becoming stronger and confident within ourselves, less people will be able to affect us. My father always said something to me that really is impactful, especially now that I'm older and more open to the understandings of his wisdom. And that was, don't ever let anyone rent space in your head. Because once they do, they own you. So if someone makes fun of you or calls you a name, and you allow that to affect you, you allow that to trigger you, you allow that to bring you down, that person, at the end of the day, wins. That person, the trolls out there, the bullies out there, that's the response they want. They want to see you downtrodden. They want to see your heart heavy. They want to see you sad. Why not rise up against that? The ultimate rise up against that is just to be strong. And how does one go about doing that? Well, I know, it's cliche, but fake it till you make it. I've done this a lot in my life for a numerous amount of things, you know. I remember when I first found yoga in my life. I was dating a woman who recognized my anger issues, recognized my stubbornness, recognized my inability to change. And I remember waking up that one morning and going to that yoga class. It was a restorative class. And literally for 45 minutes laying there just feeling my body. And once I left that class, it was like a shell had been shed from me, and for the first time I could feel myself. I could be seated within myself. One thing that is given to all of us is this potential to reveal the true self that we were given in this life. Our journey is to find out what that tool is, to acquire it, and to use it. But some of us become short-sighted on things that don't really matter, that are more superficial, that don't have any place or value in what is truly our life. You have to take care of yourself before you can take care of anyone else. And if you can't become seated within this, then you're not doing life right. I said it in the last video and I'm going to say it again. You got to love yourself. You got to love this first. If you don't, there's no hope for you or anyone around you. You're just going to be a cesspool of sadness and depression that brings everything around yourself and everything down around yourself, including yourself. Now, let's go back to the idea of hate speech. I think on a daily basis I'd probably say 1 or 2 racist things, and I definitely say 5 or 6 offensive things. But there is a difference between saying something that's racist, saying something that's offensive, and meaning it, and saying something that's in jest. You know, one might say the good intentions pave the way to hell, but I think on the other end of the coin, there's something called comedy. And what happened to the days where we could, just joke about things and things could be actually funny, and we could make light of things, I remember a time when, someone could make fun of my ethnicity and I could make fun of them because they were different. And within that difference, we found that camaraderie. Now it's like you're afraid of who's actually going to listen into your conversation and what effects that's going to have on your daily life. There's bigger impacts to be made. There's bigger fish to fry out there, and there's bigger battles to be fought than the semantics of language. I would like to challenge everyone out there to exercise their freedom of speech to the utmost of degree. And when you come into those situations where you actually don't agree, don't shut yourself off and say that and categorize something as hate speech and it needs to be removed, first look at yourself. Why does that invoke a reaction with you? If it is something beyond you, have a discussion with that person. And I'm not talking, the "fuck you, you're racist" yelling at someone. I'm saying, what did you mean by that comment? What are you trying to what are you trying to convey? What are you trying to get across? And start a conversation. And you'll be surprised at what will happen when you take a different approach. People don't respond well to, being told what to do. But I think people do respond well to the seeking of knowledge. If you're out there trying to understand something past tell someone what to do, someone's going to react to you a whole different way. They're going to give you the most true of themselves. Otherwise, feathers get ruffled, people start to posture, and it becomes a fight. I don't want to fight with anybody, but what I want to do is create discussion. So if you watched this video today and you thought, wow, I totally agree with everything you say, please share this video. If you watch this video today and you're like, wow, this guy's full of shit, I don't agree with him, share this video as well. I'd like to start this conversation with people and see where people are at and see how close I'm hitting to a mark of what other people are thinking, and to better understand myself where people are coming from and where people think. So again, thank you guys so much for watching these videos. Tune in every week. I'm going to try to post out a new rant every week. If you have any ideas of what you'd like me to speak about, or you want to learn a little bit more about me, feel free to ask me in the comments below. Otherwise, I will see you next time.